Hi guys, it's Kathy with Art Zone. I'm going to show you how to make our monochromatic tree. Monochromatic. So mono means one, chromatic means color. So it's one color, but we're mixing it with white and black. When you do that, you create different shades and tints. Shade means you've added black to a color. Tint means you've added white. The only part that is not monochromatic is right here, the trunk. I did use a little brown on that trunk, but if you want to stay with a true monochromatic painting, you could just add some black down there instead. So to start our painting, I like to start with the blue in the background, and it is just your true blue color. I've added nothing to it. When I did paint it on, I was taking my paintbrush back and forth all the way across. You don't want to go back and forth and up and down. When you do that, your brush strokes are going to show and it's going to look messy in the end. So back and forth, just about over halfway down the canvas or paper. So you're leaving just about 1/3 of your surface open. You're going to want to do that twice. So paint it, let it dry. You can dry it with a blow dryer, but if you do that, don't have your blow dryer super close. Have it a little further away and put it on a low heat. If you have it too close and too high of a heat, the top layer of your paint is going to dry, but the bottom layer is not. And what's going to happen is you're going to start to see cracks form. And once those cracks form, you really can't fix it. They're going to be part of your painting. So paint it blue, let it dry. Paint it blue a second time. And then we're ready to create our ground down here. On my second layer of blue, I go straight into the ground. So I don't clean out my brush. My brush will still have the blue from painting that sky area. And then I'm going to go straight into my white. I'm not going to clean it out. And I'm going to start with that horizon line. And you can decide what it looks like. And as color breaks, so as there's some highlights and lowlights, I try and leave them. I don't want to keep going back and forth. If I keep going back and forth, I'm just going to create one type of blue, and I'm wanting it to have different shades and tints. So sometimes there's a real bright white, and sometimes there's a little darker area, and I want that to happen. You're going to want to do this twice, so once again, you'll want it to dry, and then you'll want to dip in your white and your blue again, and then add it right on top, and just kind of try and not over blend it. I like to try and create like a little walkway, like you could walk up to the tree. To do that, I was putting a little bit darker blue in almost kind of like a triangular shape here. That kind of goes back to that little dip in my background, my mountains. Once you've done that, we're ready to start adding the tree. I like to start with the top of the tree, and I'm going to switch to a little bit smaller of a paintbrush. This could be a little tricky for some because we're going to try and just add a bunch of little dashed lines that are dark blues and light blues and white. I'm going to stay away from my black if at all possible, just because sometimes it takes over and it really grays out all the colors. I'm going to wait and use my black to add a little bit of interest in the end. So I'm going to take that brush. I'm going to start by dipping in my white, and I'm going to start up top with that triangle shape, but I'm going to whisk it out. And then I'll go to my blue, and I'll add some more, and I'll keep whisking it out from the center. And I'll go back to my white. My goal is not to go back and blend it together. Let there be some dark blues and some light blues. You've got to have some of that white mixed in, otherwise it's just the same color as your background. You don't want that. is where some people will struggle because the little wisp you'll want to try and fix them and make them perfect. You keep going, adding those whisks. Now we're going to go back and we're going to layer this more. Try not to let it touch the ground. You see, just about every time I do this painting, it seems to look a little different. On this one, my whisks were going straight down, but on this one, I've kind of curved them up and made them flare out. So you have fun figuring out which way you want to do. Practice on some paper first if you like. But now I need to go back and I'm going to do the exact same thing. You don't always have to wait for it to dry, so you can keep going and layer it again and see what happens. I'm trying not to redo my whisks. Instead, I'm actually just trying to add new ones. It looks a little fluffier. This is one of those paintings that really it looks pretty simple, but it can drive you a little nutty. Work your way down again. And you can layer this as absolutely many times as you want until you get it the way you're happy with it. Though sometimes you're going to need to walk away because you're going to want to keep fixing it, and you might have actually reached the point that you don't need to fix it. Step back from your painting and see what's coming out and what you want to do about that. If you need to blend a little here and there or add a little more white in areas, if there's a little too much blue. But keep layering, let it dry in between some of the layers until you get it to a point that you're happy with. And we need to add our tree trunk. Now if you want to stay with true monochromatic, I'm actually not even cleaning my brush out once again. I'm dipping into that black and I'm going to add that tree trunk right down here. Then I will clean out my paintbrush because I want to take some of my whisks back over the tree trunk, the bottom area. You really want that to dry, otherwise you're going to get gray in your tree. Well, some people might like that. There's no right or wrong on these. That's the great thing. All right. We're ready to switch to our small brush. And I'm going to start by adding my star. And I used white on that star. I like it to be kind of floating above the tree. So I start with that really long line straight up and down. And then I give it its cross before I add the X. I like my X to be a little shorter than the other two. So if you look here, see how that X that's coming across is actually shorter. And now we're going to switch to the black and we're going to add some contrast by throwing some black in there. I'm going to take it, it's almost like outlining to where I'm going to come. I like to come to the star and on one side of that center, add a black line. And then on the bottom of this part, add a black line. I'm gonna look close, you might be able to see. I did that. And now I'll add black to the X as well. And then come to the top of the tree and add some little black whisking coming off, and I add some in the center too. Some people do some really fun little curly cues. Have some fun. Add as many as you want. But then I also come back through. If you look, you can see I did that same thing with white. I added some whisks back throughout it and even on the sides. So play back and forth with that. And then let's go to the ground. And depending on how your ground highlights and lowlights are, it's once again time to do a little bit of outlining with that black. And I like to start with, of course, the top and let it fade out. Add some to the tree trunk, even inside that tree trunk. And curve it around. But try and let it be a little more free. And then right here where it's got a darker area, so that's where I'm gonna want to add a little bit more outline. And over here, I'm gonna bring it back and forth. Kind of help show that path that I was talking about. I didn't do a path in this one. This one looks more like a tree skirt to me. Every time I do them, they're just a little different. So have some fun. Add a little more contrast to your ground and your tree. And remember, you can always paint over things, just let them dry. Thanks for painting with us.